In this episode of Hot Hardware's 2.5 Geeks podcast, live stream, whatever you want to call it, we're going to have big, bodacious gaming rigs and petite, potent MacBooks next. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, family members, Thanksgiving turkeys, all of y'all. Welcome back to yet another fine episode of Hot Hardware's 2.5 Geeks live stream. Dave Altavilla here. We are running flat out in the run-up to Turkey Day. Right, Marco? How you doing over there?
I'm doing all right. Today's been one of those days where I feel like I've been busy every minute, have gotten nothing done, but, it is what it is.
Yes, that is a similar feeling I have as well. That's indicative of this time of year, I think. Just frantic, but maybe in a good way. I don't know. Keith is with us. Keith May, new on the Hot Hardware squad. Keith, welcome to the stream.
Welcome. Well, thanks for having me here. And yeah, I can definitely echo those sentiments.
Keith, in case you didn't notice, has a little something behind him there that we'll be getting to later in the stream. That is the Falcon Northwest Talon, looking mighty suave with blue lighting in the background there. That is built on Intel 12th Gen Alder Lake technology, which we'll be stepping through in a little bit. But a giveaway is afoot for that machine right now at hothardware.com. We'll be giving it away at the end of the week, but we'll be talking it up shortly so that you know all about it and what you could potentially win. Right, Keith? Have you taken care of it? You didn't like spill any Coca-Cola's in there or nothing, did you?
No, and there may be some fingerprints hidden in there, so if you need to incriminate me or anything, I mean, you could definitely lift some prints. But
dust them right off the glass.
Yeah. But it's been kept very clean and mostly in the box outside of testing and everything. So it's been, avoiding the animals and such.
Excellent. It looks like it's in the bunker there with you. But gently tested for a few benchmark runs only, and then we'll be tucked away for a very lucky winner, which we'll get to.
I didn't realize it was the actual machine that we tested that's going out. That's great. At least it works.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Tested and burned in. It's not gonna quit on you because it didn't quit on us. It actually scored quite well, but we'll get to that shortly. We don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. Marco, what's going on in your neck of the woods? You got anything on the test bench?
I do. I still have Alder Lake running, and I just got a shipping notification for a new motherboard that I did not know was coming, and I suspect it is to address some of the overclocking related concerns I had in our article. My test rig, as soon as I try to overclock even a little bit, it immediately thermally throttles like within a couple seconds. So I can't get performance to increase, even though it's completely stable. And I think it's because of the frequency and voltage curve set up in this board. Because if I manually dial in a new curve, things get much better. And there's no new BIOS for this board yet. So I think a replacement board is coming, at which point I assume I will be able to generate some new overclocking data. We'll see.
Excellent. And our French friend Francois has graced us with his presence. Welcome to the stream, Francois. Good to see you again. But yeah, it sounds like some funky nuances. There are always a few funky nuances when it comes to a new platform like something like Intel Alder Lake. So kind of par for the course, but sounds like you're learning about it every day a little bit more.
Absolutely. Just the simplest thing, just dropping voltage, just setting the voltage offset to 0.1 right across the curve. Not only drops power consumption a good 10-15%, but it increases performance. So like something definitely iffy with the tuning on the board that I have here.
I'll have to find out what was in that Falcon Northwest rig for a motherboard. I do believe it is of the Asus variety, but we'll be talking a little bit more about that later. For now, there's a few headlines going around Hot Hardware these days. We've been busy. We've had our elves, I guess maybe for this time of year. We're getting there. Working hard on custom content, feature content, and there's some good stuff. One of which, Keith, you actually graced us with recently, and that is the DJI Mavic 3, which I'm going to drop a link into the chat. That is a mighty cool looking drone, kind of a stealth look to it, almost, with the matte sort of dark gray paint job there. But Mavic 3 has got some pretty serious enhancements, right? And you deemed it not a toy, which
No.
for $3,000 I would agree with you. But well, yeah, what's interesting about this thing? We'll just mention it real quick and keep moving.
Okay, so the Mavic 3 is a continuation of their Pro line, and that's kind of I had a little issue with the naming of that just because it took the Pro out of it. And there's a lot of people who just general consumers that like the Mavic line because they have their Air models, so the Air 2 and the Air 2S and such. But this is professional grade, and I kind of wish they'd kept the name on there, but it is what it is. It does, however, feature 2 cameras on this one. That's something we haven't seen in the past from the Mavic line. Usually they have a higher fidelity camera that gives you the ability to do like a digital zoom, but this one's actually using a 4/3 sensor, so similar to what is in a micro 4/3 camera. It does 5K, 60, was it 5K at 24 to 50 FPS, 4K to 60. There's going to be an update for it that does like 5K at 100, 4K at 120 down the road. But if you were to compare this to like the previous generation video, it's incredible how clear it is. And because of that micro 4/3, instead of just that tiny, like just little bitty sensor in there that you got before, this thing actually does really good video at night. And prior to the review, I didn't get a chance to like fly it at night, but after going up at times that I would not have flown my personal Air 2, this thing did phenomenal at the night flying.
Wow.
Yeah, there's still some things they have to add to it, and that's the only thing that kept me from saying like this thing is spot on the money. And once those things get added to it, I think it'll be almost flawless. It's not cheap, and it doesn't need to be considered it's not a hobbyist. Like somebody's going to buy this for work.
Yeah, that is a serious tool. You said features being added, so different shot modes, right, are coming in a future firmware update. Didn't I hear that somewhere?
Yeah, in the past, there's this thing called Master Shots. Think of it like easy mode for people who want to be professional but don't really have the time to learn how to do these wild and crazy like blowout shots or like orbits of moving vehicles. One of the things that it has the capability of doing, it's just not able to do it yet, is you can actually set it to follow, say, a car. And while that car is driving, it will avoid obstacles like mailboxes or trees and other things as it's following that target. So
cool stuff. Yeah, I saw it actually in the video. I don't know if you can bring that up, Chris, but it might be a little bit too much to ask. But the video demo you had where it was tracking you through the woods, at first I saw it and I was like, oh man, like just begging to, I don't know if you can scrub to it, Chris.
Should be toward the end.
Toward the end, yeah.
There it is.
Yeah, you're in the thick of it right there, and that thing's like, yeah, how you doing, tree? And it's just
and it adjusts
right around
it adjusts for the altitude and the trees. My other one would have hit something. My old Air 2 would have ran right into something.
Really? So the obstacle avoidance is pretty dialed with this new model, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Nice, very nice. There's some good aerial shots for sure. Man, your neighbors must have been like, hey, Keith's flying drones again.
I think they're used to it here in the neighborhood by now.
Good stuff. Marco, you got any drones? I've got a Mavic Mini. I love mine.
I don't. I was just going to ask Keith. Keith, you're like a drone enthusiast, right? This is your jam right here.
It is.
Yes. So if I wanted a drone, right, that it was just really good for photos and video, I didn't care about obstacle avoidance or range or battery life, just to have a drone for if I want to take a cool aerial shot. Do you have an opinion on what's a good one to grab that's not going to break the bank?
So there's two there's two recommendations that I make quite often to people, and they are DJIs, but it's the Mini 2 or the Mini 2 SE. Those
Okay.
are the Mini 2 would give you better range. It's got a better controller. It's got the same radio that the Mavic 3 uses, actually. So the same transmitter. And the SE is the same drone, but it's the last generation's transmitter. And if you're okay with sticking to around maybe no more than a mile away from where you took off, then the SE would be fine.
Yeah, I'm thinking it would actually be line of sight. Like if I just wanted to take an aerial shot of the house or the kids are playing.
Yeah.
I just want a drone to play around for photo and video. Cool. I'll check it
So-
out.
Mini.
Yeah, the Mini SE, it stays under the 250 gram mark, so you never have to worry about registering it with the FAA or any of that stuff.
So Tim is saying, I just want a drone to spy on the neighbors. I have 2 old drones and have spied on the neighbors and have some awesome video. But no, this one's more higher quality, like for the kids and stuff. You know.
Yeah.
That is a nice feature of the Mini line that you mentioned, Keith, and that's the fact that the size is small enough that you don't have to register it with the FAA. So it's kind of nice. You can just, as long as it's a safe place to fly, you're good. You don't have to worry about registering it.
I mean, I'm Italian. I wouldn't register anything anyway.
Oh boy, and only you can say that about Italians, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, because you are one. All right. Well, no, that's good stuff, Keith. Thanks for checking that out. The DJI Mavic 3, not cheap, but if you want the ultimate, it's almost there. Probably a firmware update or 2 away from being the ultimate drone, right?
Yeah.
Cool stuff. In other reviews, and we've got a bunch since we didn't quite make it last week, so we've got a few things built up. ThinkPads have been hitting the review bench at hothardware.com. ThinkPad P15 Gen 2, a refined mobile workstation. Chris, you checked this out. A bit of a tank, I will say that, 6 pounds or thereabouts, and 6.25, 6.3 pounds. And but big chunky battery to go with it, and killer performance, workstation class kind of performance in a mobile machine, right, Chris?
Yeah, and really, I wouldn't say it's that tanky. If you go back 6-7 years, I mean, it's just what a laptop size would have been. So
Relatively speaking,
it's really not that bad. But yeah, fully stocked with awesome processor. You can put Xeon CPU in there. You can put Quadro graphics in. So professional. This is going to get your work done kind of machine. Very, very much enjoyed my time with it. The only kind of snags I ran into with it, the screen's like just a 60 hertz IPS panel. It's fine. It's okay. I'd like to see some higher refresh rate, especially just because it helps the system responsiveness. And as you're working with 3D models or that kind of thing, any bit of smoothness is just going to help your experience. And then, the teardown on it is, I'll just say it's unorthodox, just the way you go about it. So if you do get one of these machines and you want to go about upgrading it, definitely consult the manual first, or you may just find yourself in some trouble. But other than that, fantastic specs, great performance. Really like it.
Yeah, and actually looking at the teardown, the nice thing is it has both a socketed SSD, M2 standard M2 style SSD, but also a pair of sodium slots, which is rare these days in notebooks, it seems.
Yeah,
so
there's
that's nice.
actually a total of 4 sodium slots. So
Oh, wow.
the bottom side of the notebook comes populated. Then under the keyboard, there's 2 more slots. They're kind of under this silver plate here. We'll get to that in a second. So you can put in up to 4 sticks of RAM. There's 4 M.2 slots kicking around. 2 of the sizes are escaping me. This larger size.
Yeah, the dumb stick, 2280, I think.
2280, and one of the 2242 smaller size. So lots of expansion options. It's built.
Oh, you didn't have to pause. I just threw in Francois' snarky little comment. He's saying it's a security risk, but isn't everything these days, unless it's untethered from the web?
Yeah.
Pretty much. Marco, you're muted, by the way. I didn't Yeah, there you go.
I was typing. I was just saying, basically, there's so many. Let's not even get into it. Like, going back to that Super Micro story that turned out to be BS. Where there was a story that a chip found its way onto Super Micro boards, and the Chinese had access to basically all these servers, and it turned out to be just completely bogus story. It's so. I mean, I agree. You have to be careful with imports, and especially machines that may be targeted at enterprise and large fleets. But it's such a touchy subject,
Yeah. Yeah, good stuff. At any rate, the ThinkPad P15 Gen 2, and we also had another ThinkPad in the X1 Extreme Gen 4, which Ben Funk tested out. The P15 fared really well for Chris from its Quadro Ampere-based Quadro GPU to its beefy Tiger Lake H processor, and the performance throughout the ThinkPad X1 Extreme Gen 4. Just real quickly, right there. Nicer, sort of thinner, more svelte styled machine. A 16-inch machine with a QHD plus display, also 60 hertz IPS display. So a little bit larger display with a QHD plus format, 2560 by 1440. But 4 pounds was a little bit thermally challenged, was the net. Lots of horsepower on board this as well. RTX 3060 GPU, Core i7 11800H 8-core Tiger Lake H CPU. Loaded up 512 gig SSD, 16 gigs of DDR4, all that good stuff. But it did get thermally saturated and a little on the loud side. So perhaps, there's some tuning that could be done maybe with fan curves and power targets. Not sure, but a little bit unwieldy for a ThinkPad X1 series, right, Marco?
I wouldn't say it's unwieldy. You know what I wish? The couple of issues.
I meant on the thermals and acoustics, but go ahead. Sorry. Yeah, not the size.
The other issue was the single channel RAM configuration, which could have been. It had the extra SODIMM slot, so it could have easily been a dual channel config, which would have boosted some performance, some of the performance numbers. What I wish. Like, this is a beautiful machine. Like, this is a form factor that I think lots of people would enjoy. The 16-inch, quad
Barely
HD
4
display.
pounds. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's still a thin and light, but you get that larger form factor without the giant bezels. Like, it's a nice sized machine, I think, for a lot of people. I just wish, like, Lenovo maybe went a millimeter thicker at the back of it. You could still have the wedge design, go a little thicker, add some more thermal dissipation capability, make the heat sink and heat pipes bigger, but be able to maintain max performance longer. I know that's probably addressing a small portion of the market, like enthusiasts that, like us, we see this stuff because we run benchmarks. Most general users probably wouldn't see this, but to see a machine with this much horsepower under the hood throttle basically so quickly, it's a little disappointing. So I would love to see, the next gen X1 go just a millimeter thicker at the far end, enhance the cooling capabilities and let it maintain that performance longer. And then you have a killer machine here because you got all the ports. You basically have everything. You're not in like dongle hell. You have lots of connectivity. It's just that performance aspect that would have made it near perfect.
Yeah, half the time I think these OEMs, like Lenovo, Dell, whoever, they're battling a trade-off between size and weight and thermal solution. And in this case, this machine has a beefy 88 watt hour battery in there too. So who knows, maybe that, consumed some additional real estate that some heat piping could have occupied otherwise. But yeah, it's it's just one of those things. A lot of horsepower under the hood, but then not a lot of thermal dissipation to expend that heat.
Yep.
But yeah, interesting stuff. And then the last thing, and this one might be interesting for Keith as well, because I know you do a little bit of gaming. Before we move on to the main event, we'll just mention this quickly. NVIDIA came out with a new image quality measuring tool NVIDIA iCat unveiled in-game image quality analysis made easy. This admittedly is from the folks at NVIDIA, targeted at examining things like DLSS quality versus FSR and AMD. But some serious merit to being able to better analyze image quality in motion as well as still frame, right, Marco?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really cool, actually. So it's very straightforward tool. You have to capture video coming out of your GPU, so you can get the true effect of all the post processing and scaling and all that goodness. That lots of times just capturing a screenshot or using software capture tools on that PC, they can't get some of that stuff. And it allows you to load in multiple images or video clips. It syncs them up, right? So, and it loops them. So you're always seeing the same thing in both clips. And then you have just a slider. You can slide across the screen to see an immediate difference, right? And when we evaluated stuff like FSR and different DLSS modes, if you sequentially watch video clips, yes, you can pick out differences, right? If you spend the time on it and you're really discerning about details in the videos, but it's really hard to remember going from clip to clip. With iCat, it's super easy and the effect is immediately noticeable. So it's a hugely valuable tool for evaluating image quality. Now, the wrinkle this is going to incorporate into potentially future testing, and we can probably dedicate a whole podcast to this discussion with any gamers out there, is if you're testing DLSS or FSR or Intel's upcoming XeSS or NVIDIA's new universal scaling modes, they may have similar names across platforms, like one has a performance mode, one has a quality mode. But if the ultimate image quality is different, where do you test those performance levels? So if you want to be the fairest, you would evaluate the closest image quality and compare those modes. If one is at a different level, so be it. So that's the wrinkle that's going to happen as more and more games support all of the different scaling options available. But again, that's a whole different rat hole we could go down. Yeah.
And that, I think, is part of the reason why this tool exists. NVIDIA wants folks to look at image quality fairly, like you said, find like image quality between two different solutions, and then look at performance. And once you've established, okay, this is a base level image quality that we're comparing now. Keith, any thoughts on this thing? It's pretty interesting, and I think, for me, I'm sort of torn between, hey, if your brain can't remember it, looking scene to scene on its own, does a slider really matter? But
yeah,
I think it does.
it does. I would say I think it does, because like Marco said, I mean, the reality is when you're evaluating, you're trying to eliminate as much subjectivity as you can, and you're trying to keep it objective. And the reality is they do have different names. I mean, just take DLSS and FSR, for example. The top quality modes for each one is ultra quality, the other one is quality. But if you do this, just like what's on screen right now, if they don't look the same, they're not the same. And if you go down the stack and you find, say, balanced or performance looks the same as ultra in DLSS looks the same as ultra quality in FSR, then those performance metrics should theoretically be taken from the comparable image. There's still value in what performance metrics it has with each of the quality settings. However, like you said, there needs to be a standardized, once you go a baseline, like all images match this level in as many metrics as possible, then you can compare from there, like a benchmark. I mean, it gets complicated because it's real easy to just say on a 1080p screen, I'm watching a video on YouTube and I can't see the difference. But with this, you can take a 4K image as it comes out of the graphics card into a monitor, and then you can zoom in, and I get it, you're pixel peeping, but you have to, if you're going to be able to say there's a difference between things. But if you're gaming and you can't tell the difference, then that's where you as the gamer get to make that choice.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's a good point. It's a great tool for evaluation purposes, like the stuff that we do, and then hopefully we impart a little bit of knowledge and information with tools like this to set a level playing field. Tim makes a good point as well. Hey, in FPS games, sometimes when a moving target is streaking across the screen and you're trying to line up a reticle on them. Having a sharper image can be the difference between a clean kill or not. So, good stuff there. Good point, Tim. All right. Well, we should probably move on to the main event. And we've burned a little bit of time on some of these other articles. You can check them out at hothardware.com. There's lots of new content up every week. We usually launch about 2 or 3 features a week and dozens of news stories every day. But let's talk about the most recent creation from the illustrious Ben Funk, the MacBook Pro 14 review. Testing Apple M1 Pro performance claims is what we deemed the title of this article. And it was really an effort by our team. And Marco, you helped contribute some benchmarks from Intel platform, notebook platform stuff to this as well. It was an effort from our team to really sort of baseline as much as we could, some cross-platform performance comparisons, certainly give the experiential. Ben's real great with that. He's actually a developer by day and does develop on the Mac platform as well as iOS, I believe. So he's intimately familiar with the software. And so, the experiential is there for folks that want to read that. I dropped the link in the chat. But what we really sort of went down the rabbit hole with and did a deep dive on was this A/B comparison between essentially what was Apple's performance claim, which is, hey, the M1 Pro processor and M1 Max as well, the higher end version. This is a MacBook Pro 14 with the M1 Pro in it. So 6 performance cores, 2 efficiency cores. The Max is a higher end chip, 8 core, I believe, or 10 cores total, 8 and 2, or maybe it's 12.
It's 6 and 2 in this machine.
No, I know it's 6 and 2 in this machine, but the Max, the next one up is the Max, and is that 8 and 4 or 8 and 2? I'd have to.
Look. I don't even remember.
Yeah, I know. It's bad. This is 6 performance cores, 2 efficiency cores. Anyways, the idea was to really sort of see how this was going to match up versus its Intel counterparts and what Apple claimed should be a powerful gaming class notebook on the Intel and Windows platform. So we pit this thing against an RTX 3060 equipped laptop with an Intel 11th Gen Tiger Lake H processor in there, and then there's even some standard Tiger Lake as well, 4-core stuff. But yeah, some very interesting findings, right, Marco?
Yes, and I am just responding to being AFK from Twitch because I assume it's a he. Says, I'm definitely going to end up getting a new MacBook one day, just not yet. And what I am responding with is you should probably wait and see what happens with Intel's 12th gen. Because looking at, so first of all, Ben did a phenomenal job in this article. I loved this article because it was very straightforward. Very, he is a Mac and Apple user, but he has no problems pointing out the deficiencies, unlike most people that cover Apple product, because Apple is so selective who they work with in the press. I loved the comparisons, and I love how Ben pieced this article together. Now, what you'll see, we used basically 2 top-end Intel platforms from the current 11th gen stuff, right? We have a Tiger Lake H system and a Tiger Lake U system with leading edge configurations here. And yes, Apple comes out on top in a lot of tests, right? But not all. And if you look at the single thread versus 11th gen, it's close. Apple wins a few. Intel comes close in a few. But I'm going to use Jetstream as an example, right? If you look at the Jetstream number, you see Intel with this huge lead. And if you look at 12th gen desktop, Alder Lake had a monster lead over 11th gen on the desktop side. And if you look at the Alder Lake Core i5, power wasn't insane versus it was actually lower than 11th gen. It was looking, so there's an assumption that Alder Lake power is kind of screwy because lots of people are looking at the 12900K, which is kind of running on the bleeding edge. Plus, if you look across multiple reviews, I honestly believe there was an issue with some motherboards because the power numbers are all over the place. So I'm really optimistic with Alder Lake Mobile. I think it's going to have a really big single thread boost versus current platforms. I think power is going to look really good with those efficiency cores running in these really low TDPs. I'm optimistic that DDR5 is going to offer enough of a bandwidth boost to help in a handful of situations. And then all told, 12th gen Intel based notebooks, assuming, some of the key players do some nice optimization work, I think it's going to push the PC platform forward. And then on top of that, I think Apple lit a fire under Microsoft's ass to finally optimize again on the Windows platform. Put that all together, and I think the situation looks very different in 6 to 8 months from now. Getting back to this MacBook, really, really nice machine for $2,000. Maybe it's a little pricey for an what is essentially an entry level MacBook Pro, but I mean it's undeniably nice. You have a GeForce 3060 class GPU. You have a super fast processor. It's thin and light. Battery life is phenomenal. Gorgeous screen, awesome build quality. It's a nice machine. I personally think OS X looks like it's stuck in the late 90s, but that's me.
You make a good point on the software side of things, but the hardware side of things, from what we saw, sort of trading blows here and there in the gaming section. Depends, if you had a traditional sort of mobile based graphics engine, like I think GFX Bench, for example, Manhattan shows, OpenGLES, mobile sort of game engines. When you get to more desktop class gaming, like Rise of the Tomb Raider or whatever, that's when the 3060 starts to stretch its legs. We're not surprised there. But even back to the, Cinebenches and the Geek benches and the standard CPU throughput, what Apple has pulled off here is impressive. Great single threaded performance, solid multi-threaded performance. You're looking at what is an eight core 6 and 2 configuration versus an 8-core full 8-core all performance cores in the 11th gen for the 11980HK. So impressive what they're able to achieve, no question about it. They do a lot more with less in silicon these days, and you hit the nail on the head when you talk about the OS, Microsoft tuning its OS closer to the metal than ever before, and I think that's where Apple gets its performance from, is that tight coupling of software and hardware in the development phase.
Right.
Those multi-chip modules with the bandwidth that they serve, the memory bandwidth they serve, are there for a reason. They really thought that one out.
Right. Like if you're developing a processor, knowing how the software works, and developing an OS and software in conjunction with the processor, you can do some really, really great optimization work. But I got to make a couple more quick points because I'm really passionate about this one. Chris, if you can scroll to the Cinebench chart, I want to make a point. Like if you look at single thread performance, right? Single core performance. Everyone's got to understand that's half of an Intel core, because Intel cores can do hyperthreading. So theoretically, if you could run 2 threads in Cinebench, that's how much performance a single core can offer, right? So Intel wins core for core in something like Cinebench, right? It's thread per thread is where it's losing. And then if you go to the instantaneous power towards the bottom, this is really interesting too. If you look at instantaneous power of
Ben did some good stuff.
The 2020 Mac Mini, right, that has 4 efficiency cores and 4 high performance cores, and then look at the new M1 Pro that has 6 of the high performance cores and 2 of the low power cores. It's a big jump in instantaneous power. So Apple's not superhuman and doing something super nutty here. They've just, used a highly optimized low power design with tightly coupled software development and, years of optimization basically brought over from the iPhone side. When these machines first hit, I was like, oh, damn, the Intel is screwed, right? Apple, Microsoft, and Intel and AMD. There's no way they can overcome this without working way closer together with Microsoft. I've since changed my mind.
Yeah.
And I think Apple just has the timing right. And next year, the story may be very different.
I think you're right. And if you look, that's a great chart right there, Chris. Stay on that right for a second. If you look at that, so MacBook Pro 14 versus, let's say, the Prestige 14 Evo, which has a quad-core Tiger Lake 1185 G7. And then you look what Apple does. This is a 6 and 2 configuration. So 6 performance cores, 2 efficiency cores, so 8 cores total. And they're still getting under the power envelope of Intel's 11th gen. However, we know Alder Lake changes that picture dramatically, certainly because of the single threaded performance, but the efficiency and the tighter coupling, frankly, as well with the OS, whether it be Thread Director, which is a hardware resource on the chip, but Windows 11 understanding that resource as well. So yeah. Could be interesting.
I know we got to move on, but I'm going to bring something up. Francois said people, misunderstand electrical instantaneous power and thermal power.
Yeah.
Francois, in your opinion, am I completely off the mark? Because I think, the Alder Lake's power, if Microsoft optimizes Windows better and those efficiency cores are used more often than they potentially are now, I don't know. The efficiency story could look very different. I don't think the performance cores are going to be more efficient than Apple's, but if the efficiency cores are used a large percentage of the time, that shifts the balance. It's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out. Oh, good. Okay, Francois said I'm on the mark, so I'm glad I'm not going crazy.
And this is an interesting question from being at AFK. How did Apple do on the thermals on this version of the MacBook? And actually, Chris, on page 3, I believe, we've got thermals and acoustics. And surprisingly, I don't know if it is page 3. Surprisingly quiet. I mean, this thing, a foot or two from the keyboard is putting out 33 dB. That's about right where your face is going to be. So what your ears will hear. That's barely above ambient room noise for an average relatively quiet room. If you have forced air heating or cooling, that's probably going to be louder than the machine. And then there's the thermals 110F at the hottest point around the keyboard. We've certainly seen plenty of Intel machines skirt up towards 120 and higher, so that's a very reasonable, that's probably about average for the average Intel based laptop or Ultrabook on the market. So that's not out of line either. It looks good.
Yeah. So being AFK said his last MacBook sounded like a jet engine. This one, you won't even hear it.
Yeah. Good stuff for sure. And it seems like the forcing function here for Apple with Apple Silicon was that Intel was just a beat or two behind on this. If Alder Lake was maybe at 6-9 months or maybe a full 12 ahead of schedule where it came out now, we might not be having this discussion. Maybe, I don't know. I think Apple always wants to bring the internal design in-house to own it as much as they can and enhance the profit margins as a result as well, though.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry to keep monopolizing, Keith. I know
you're good. Yeah, you're good.
With all the success of the iPhone and developing their own SoC, it made sense. Now, if Intel didn't have those manufacturing delays for years and years, maybe they don't shift the MacBooks and iMacs. But I don't know. Apple was probably going to shift at some point, no matter what, due to the success of their SoCs in the iPhones. And, it simplifies lots of things for them to have essentially one scalable platform versus, multiple platforms to handle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because ultimately, like a MacBook's a big iPhone. I mean, really.
Yeah.
Keith, would you have you dabbled in Apple? Would you consider a MacBook for your daily driver?
Uh,
I know you're a PC
no. No, I did for a hot minute when they first came out with the M1. I thought about something that I could throw in my out in the bag, something small. Battery lasted a really long time, but I've been using a Zephyrus G14
guy.
for a while, and it just I mean, if I didn't have that and I was considering, maybe I would think about it, but that's a lot of it's the same problem I always run into with Mac products is it's a lot of money, and the options that you get with a Windows based system, there's so many options for the money. But if you're in the Apple ecosystem, get it. I mean, I use an iPhone, but I still it's just a phone for me. So
Yeah, good value proposition in general from a performance, especially from a performance per watt and performance. I don't know about performance per dollar. It's still on the pricier side of things, but this config was at least reasonable. Like we compared it to a horsepower wise, a machine that approaches $3,000 with a discrete RTX 3060. But there are other machines on the market, and it just so happens this is what we had in house, and it was as like a spec comparison as we could get in terms of horsepower. There, like you noted, there's an Asus. I think this is Zephyrus M16 or something like that. That's out. That's a lot cheaper than the one we tested, than the MSI machine. Right, Marco, you were about to say
and you
that.
know what? Ben mentioned a couple times that my machine failed. He wanted to run more tests, but the machine failed in the middle of testing. It didn't fail. It's an Intel reference platform, and I got an MSI notice from the MSI Center software saying there was a BIOS update, and I forced the BIOS update and killed the rig because it wasn't. Yes. So I'm working with Intel, hopefully can recover it, because it does look like it's scanning the USB ports looking for a recovery file. It's just not working using the typical methods. So the hardware is fine. It was my stupidity forcing the update. So it is what it is.
Yeah. That's just an aside on the test systems we have in the mix. Yeah, but good stuff. I mean, you got to hand it to Apple. We all kind of thought, okay, custom silicon. There's going to be a lot of emulation going on. They kind of pulled it off pretty well, didn't they? At the end of the day,
yes,
net, you got to hand it to them. This is a solid machine. And performance is solid. But yeah, like you said, Marco, and a few months, I think around the CES timeframe, especially, which is right around the corner, we're going to start seeing more from Alder Lake in the mobile sector. That's my guess. I think I don't know if it's Q1 or Q2. We'll start seeing some new silicon arriving to the Wintel platform in the not so distant future. Be fun.
Yeah. Next prediction: next gen notebooks, the next gen notebooks with the next Alder Lake base processors with next gen discrete GPUs are only going to lose in battery life. They're probably going to win 90% of the benchmarks at that point.
I don't know. This thing put up great battery life, but it also has a big honking battery on it. And I think I was looking at some of Ben's work in that section. I have to go back. I'm not going to read it word for word now. Folks, you should check out the full review. I'll drop another link in. If we normalized it for the battery size, I think the uptime was pretty comparable between the next Intel machine, which had a smaller battery in it.
Yeah, but you're not going to. No one. What? It's the ultimate battery life that matters, right?
Right. Yeah.
So
yeah. I got you. All right. Well, anyways, let's keep moving and move away from these wimpy little laptops and talk about something behind Keith that is not only rocking Intel 12th gen core processor technology, but a absolutely beastly GeForce RTX 3090 under the hood, and that's the Falcon Northwest Talon.
I apologize when my camera doesn't get clear enough on it, but yes, It's absolutely impressively built system here by Falcon Northwest. And that's the money shot for it right there.
Yeah, look at that. Look at that cable management, that nice blue lighting. That is that's a beautiful rig. 3090. That's an interesting one. That's an EVGA 3090. Okay.
Mhm.
And you've got you get some serious cooling on board there as well. Pretty stout all-in-one, right? In the front. What size is that cooler?
It's a 280. It's a 280
Okay.
mil custom all-in-one. It's, if I could say one thing about this system, how a custom car from a dealer, when it rolls off and it doesn't look like every other car on the road, and everything they added fits so perfectly that it looks like it was molded that way.
Mm.
That's really how I can describe this system. Now, I know that Falcon built an earlier model like this with Rocket Lake, and it's been upgraded. But it's like they built for this and knew it was coming. If that makes sense.
Sure. Well, if you look at the decal and the paint job, they certainly built it for
it. They certainly did. This is it's got a lot of branding on it. There's even, you can see hints of it up here. Maybe I can tilt it ever so slightly, but it's got a fairly large Intel logo on
Don't
the top.
drop it. Don't drop it.
No. That's a good grip on it. But it's a good sturdy system. It's very heavy too, in a good way. That good high quality heavy kind of way. Not just yeah. So
and that glass panel on the side, is that hinged, or is it your typical clip job? It looked like it had a hinge, did it not?
It is hinged on the back.
Oh, nice.
So it opens like a suicide door. You can easily take it off, but it's not going to fall off. You don't have to worry about it falling off.
That.
So
right,
and
yeah, you can lift that side panel straight up and it'll come off the hinge.
And the paint is so good in here that I don't think you're going to have to worry about it flaking over time from being opened and closed a ton of times, because it's a good heavy powder coat in there. I did leave the paint strips in here so that whoever gets it doesn't have to worry about me scuffing it from opening and closing it so many times.
Nice.
But they did so much attention to detail. Even like the vents all through here are painted, and it's like a fade paint job. It's hard to tell on camera here, but it's not just a single one color paint. They gave it a custom paint job in there.
Nice.
I'm
nice.
really jealous of this system. I don't think I've ever been able to build something this clean.
I dropped a link in the chat to your full review. So let's run down the specs. Core i9 12900K. That is a 16 core, 24 thread Alder Lake chip, 12th gen core from Intel. The Falcon Northwest custom liquid cooling that you talked about, 280 millimeter radiator on the main cooler, 32 gigs of DDR5 4800 from Crucial. Yeah, just 32 gigs. An Asus Z690 Maximus Hero motherboard. There's the list right there. 4 terabyte, only 4 terabyte Seagate FireCode of PCI Express Gen 4 SSD. This thing must have been a benchmark torch, right?
It is so fast. I will note something interesting about this particular unit in case the winner is watching. Falcon shipped it with Windows 10. I asked them about that, and they said they are offering it in Windows 10 and 11. So this unit was sent with 10. They said tested, however, and I was like, well, if you're offering it, and I don't know how many other people are going to be testing this platform on Windows 10, let's see what kind of results we get. They were still, even on Windows 10, I was pretty impressed with the system as a whole. You do this long enough and you're like, okay, cool. It's faster than the last thing. That's what it should be. But using it, and with the SSD setup they have in here, that FireCuda, oh my gosh, that thing is so fast. And the fact that it's large enough to have all of your storage on it. I mean, 4 terabytes is a lot. I know that, Call of Duty is huge, but this can handle it.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
looking at the
every
fire CUDA numbers, it's pretty good. You get I mean, it's 6 and 6, 6 and a quarter read write from the small, almost the smallest file transfer all the way up to 64 megs on Atto.
yeah,
That's the giveaway thread, Chris. Let me drop the link to the review. But yeah, that fire CUDA drive is pretty potent. I'm sorry, Keith, go ahead.
no, oh no, you're good. Yeah, and that was one of the reasons why, because it's across the board. Like the tiniest little files, it's still super fast. Like, don't get me wrong, but it pegs that upper end of its total performance pretty much in every aspect that you're using it. So you're opening browsers to your normal software that you use. It's just so fast. And I know those
Yeah.
things say up to 7 gigabits per second, but we know theoretically how hard it is to hit that.
Can I interrupt for 1 second?
Yeah, please.
Chris, bring up the browser bench speedometer graph.
Yeah, there
So,
you go.
All I want to point, so everyone
that's the latency metric
that was listening for the MacBook discussion,
right,
and what 12th gen is going to do. Look at the top two bars. That's 11th to 12th gen in that test. Yep. So that's the kind of single thread improvement that Alder Lake offers. So picture that in a notebook. So that's all.
No, go back to that. Go back to that, because I want to bring something. I want to bring that back. That's Windows 10. That's without the thread scheduler.
Well, no, thread scheduler is in hardware, but it works best in 11.
Yeah, you're going to get a little bit more out of Windows 11, but that's an interesting metric right there, because speedometer is a web app benchmark, as you can see in the title, but it's basically a mix of anything from JavaScript to HTML5 to different sorts of workloads on the web, and just browsing the web that builds a web page. But it's a really good marker for responsiveness, performance, quick bursty responsiveness, right?
Yep,
it is. And now on Windows 11, that number goes over to 282.
Oh, it does. Oh, well,
yeah. So on Windows 11, it bumps even faster. So
nice.
That part, that was real impressive. So yeah, I mean, to Marco's credit, like what you said, with this next generation of Alder Lake mobile parts coming out, I mean,
yeah,
like you said, it's a lot coming.
Yeah. And I mean, you scrolling down there, you've got it's taken the top of the charts in just about everything. Of course, PC Mark 10 for productivity stuff, Time Spy for basic DX12 synthetics, but we get into Shadow of the Tomb Raider, Middle Earth, Shadow of War. Notice it's competing versus other 3090 equipped machines, Falcon Northwest's previous gen Talon with 11900K, and even the Alienware Aurora with a 10900K. Also, both of which are strapped with 3090s, and you're getting, I don't know, whatever it is there, another 10% or so.
Capping them.
Yeah. And that's at 4K, which is not usually what you would see.
Which is not CPU limited; it's GPU limited typically, or more so. Yeah. Then there's Shadow of the Tomb Raider too. So I mean, yeah, talk about a gaming beast. They sent you a ringer on this one, Keith. That's what they did.
And it's so nice. Like I said, it's like I don't want to say a Cadillac, because it's more like Ferrari.
Yeah.
It's built for speed.
Yeah, and we're giving it away, which is even crazier. I mean, the RTX 3090 is, what does that go for these days, Marco? Is it like $3,000 just for the GPU?
A 3090? I think it goes for a pinky toe and 6 Gs, something like that.
Hey,
I was just
unicorn blood.
I was just gonna make a comment. Like, it annoyed me looking at one of the charts. We have gaming machines, right, from OEMs. 3 different generations of CPUs that all shipped with 3090s. We need some freaking new GPUs and be able to buy them.
Yeah. I'm going to drop a link in the chat. This is a short Amazon link. I found this is the GeForce RTX, EVGA GeForce RTX 3090 FTW3 Ultra 24 gig card. I think that's what's in there, right, Keith? I think so.
Yeah.
It's a 4 to win 3. It's got to be.
Actually, I think it's the XC3.
Oh, it's the XC3? Okay.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find that. Well, I just dropped that one in there. That's $3,500.
I think that's about what they're all going to run right now.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah, that is a beast machine. We're giving it away, and that's actually there's only. Let me see if I can. Let me find the giveaway link again. Let me do that. Drop it back in. There's only a few days left. In fact, 2 days left. So Friday, Black Friday, is when the giveaway entries end. But if you hit the contest widget, there's like this, follow that for points. You can do one or you can do all of them if you like and get as many entries as possible. It's going to increase your likelihood of making it in the draw. It is an automated draw. We don't pick people. The Gleam system does that for us. It is limited to North America, so US and Canada only.
It's
and if
heavy.
you live, yeah, and there's shipping and duty and taxes and all that. If you live in Canada, you're responsible for any duties and taxes that are required for your region. But due to international, giveaway laws and all this different stuff, and the price of this thing, we kept it simple and did North America. But what are you laughing at, Marco?
You said duty.
I said duty. You're such a kid. You are such a kid.
Yeah.
One of the things that I like about the way companies like this do it is there's an extra box other than the system that it comes with, and it's a welcome packet that has everyone who touched this thing, all of the stress tests that they put it through. Somebody signed off on it, not a checkbox on a spreadsheet, but like an actual signature. And all of the extra cables for the 1000-watt Seasonic power supply are in there. And there's an M.2 card in this thing. So like for RAID, it is so packed out and so well put together. And it's sad I have to send it to somebody who's going to.
I dropped a comment on Twitch earlier about Falcon. Falcon Northwest is one of like the OG boutique system builders that have been doing it right for decades. Like they're not some Johnny come lately. They know how to build a system. They're so good, and they have been making some of the best gaming rigs for years and years. So whoever wins this, man, you're getting a really, really nice solid build.
Oh yeah. So good luck.
Dave, you muted.
Dave's muted.
Oops, sorry. I'm going to drop a link from their site in right now because they deserve it for sure for helping us. By the way, Intel, Asus, EVGA, these are all folks that help sponsor this giveaway in addition to Falcon Northwest. But if you haven't been by their site, you should check it out. They are, as Marco noted, they are the OG. They've been around for decades. They've been building high-end boutique systems like this since since we were looking at reviews in print magazines, put it that way.
Yeah, but before we were online, and
yeah,
Dave and I have been working together we're closing in on 23 years, right? Falcon is around way before that. I was in high school flipping through magazines and drooling over Falcon Northwest stuff. So long time ago.
98 is what Ben says.
Wow.
We started in 99, Marco.
I told you the Falcon's older than us.
That's good stuff. Anything else about that? So what? Oh, since 92.
There he is, 92.
Oh,
from the source.
Kelt, are you hanging out in the audience, you sneaky guy? There you go. 92 with a wink. So that's probably Kelt Reeves, the CEO of Falcon Northwest, who works with us exclusively on some of these, and great guy and builds great systems too. Keith, anything, and I know you kicked the tires real hard on this and, tested it 9 waves from Sunday. What's Alder Lake like on the desktop? I haven't experienced it yet. Marco has. Is there something that occurs to you about the new 12th gen platform that's, it caught you, or is it more like, hey, this is just a really fast machine and everything I throw at it just feels crazy fast?
It's a little bit of both. Over time, everything seems like it gets incrementally faster. The stuff that I use, my daily rig is a 3900X, Got 64 gigs of 3600 memory, and I've got a 3080 Ti in it. So my day-to-day rig feels pretty snappy all the time to me with PCIe Gen 4 drives. I could feel this one. I ran a Zen 3-part in here for a minute and was like, I'll go back to my 3900X. Not enough difference there. But this one overall, and it's more than just the processor, and you guys can attest to that. It's the whole platform as a whole. Like it's all of it, and everything that I did on this felt super quick, super snappy. Even one of the things I noticed on the performance numbers is like those minimum FPSs were higher, so like everything was elevated. But all in all, it was very, very snappy. And speaking to speedometer, the speedometer or speedometer, I'm always messed that up whenever it comes to how they want it. But the browser bench there, using the internet was genuinely faster on there. Even things like whenever I was installing the games, the allocation of disk space was instantaneous almost. It just was like, okay, what else you got? Okay, what else you got? And so
nice, good stuff. Well, yeah, you got to get in it to win it. We'll start cutting it down here because we are at the bottom of the hour, but I'm going to drop a link in the chat. You got to get in it to win it. The Falcon Northwest Talon, the Intel 12th Gen powered Falcon Northwest Talon. 2 days left. You have, I don't know, 16 easy ways to enter. And you could win it, right, Marco?
Absolutely. We try to make these contests super easy. I know lots of people, they're not too fond of social media. So, we spread it out across as many platforms as we can. And where you are comfortable, like a couple pages, visit a couple pages, and that's it. And you're entered super easy, no strings attached. And we got to thank all the sponsors that make this kind of stuff possible, because that rig is worth a fortune, not only in terms of the components, but the meticulous care and customization that Falcon does to it. It's an awesome rig, and to be able to give it away, we're super thankful. Perfect timing with Thanksgiving, coming tomorrow. Super thankful to all the sponsors that make this kind of stuff possible. And I hope whoever gets it is super psyched and they show it off, all over the web and tag us on their social channels so everybody knows where you want it.
That's right. But yes, you make a very good point. Thanks to the folks at Intel, Falcon Northwest, of course, Asus, Seagate. They're all in there. Seasonic, that they're in there as well. I guess Falcon put up EVGA's card, but EVGA is in the mix with their RTX 3090 X3. The folks at EVGA, we've worked with them for years as well. Really good people all around. Help put this rig together. And look at it. It's so pretty. And Kelt, I got to tell you, your logo is cool, man. I mean, a falcon is a bird of prey, and it's just a cool company logo. So good job on that as well. And yeah, get in it to win it at hothardware.com, where you can find us on the web. I just dropped that link in the chat. Twitter.com/hothardware, youtube.com/hothardwarevids. Hit thumbs up, subscribe, please, so we can notify you when we go live on the interwebs. And we try and be here. We try and get here every Wednesday at 5:30 Eastern. Doesn't always happen, but we try. And later this evening at 7:30 Eastern, make sure you tune in to Hot Hardware Twitch, where game streamer extraordinaire Val Rojas is going to grace you with some serious gaming. She's been playing some Halo Infinite lately. I'm not sure, Marco, did you see what she's teeing up for tonight? I know you were.
Yes, I messed with her rig, and I went through Halo settings as well. So hopefully everything is behaving well for tonight's stream. It was looking good during the test stream, so I hope we're okay.
Awesome. So yeah, Val is amazing, as being AFK suggests. She's definitely amazing. She's a whole lot of fun. She's a really bright personality, and you will enjoy watching her game around in anything she does. She does Rust. She does, she's been doing Halo Infinite recently. I'm trying to think what else she's been doing, but she's a big COD player. Yeah. Valorant, that's right. Yeah, she was playing some Valorant for a while. She dabbles in a lot of things, and she's pretty darn good. She can kick my butt, I tell you that much. So yeah, make sure you tune in. And in the meantime, we thank you so much for stopping by.